Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs just got massive news on the recruiting trail as the #1 player in the country, offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell, has decided to switch things up a little bit. He had originally planned to make a commitment on April 30th. Now things have changed. He has decided to take an unofficial visit to Georgia on May 10th with a commitment coming 3 days later on May 13th. Now this is giant news for a lot of reasons. Number one, he's the best player in the country. He's always been high on Georgia. But a few weeks ago, even just a few days ago, before he announced this news on, I guess he did that on Wednesday. This video is coming out Thursday night. But even then, I thought Georgia was on the outside looking in. I'm not ready to say that they're leading this or anything, but a few weeks ago, I thought this was going to be a Missouri-Ohio State battle, and he's kind of gone back and forth with some schools. He announced his Final Four, I believe, in early April, earlier this month. It was Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, and Miami. I think those were the four. Maybe Ohio State was in there, but Missouri was out, and that was a little surprising. Now, I reached out to sources yesterday after he dropped this news that he'd be taking a final visit to Georgia 3 days before making his new commitment. And now I'm starting to feel like this is a Georgia-Miami battle with Michigan still kind of lurking. And I still think Oregon is still in the mix. I know folks in Eugene felt really good about their chances with him earlier this spring. But a few teams have kind of gone up and have been the leader behind the scenes. I think Georgia's got a real shot here, even more so than I thought just a few days ago and a few weeks ago as well. So him saying, you know what, I've been to Athens several times. I know all about the program, but I want to make one more final visit to Athens, unofficial, before making his decision. I think you've got to love that if you're Kirby Smart, Stacy Searels, and the Georgia Bulldogs, because again, I thought a few teams had kind of jumped ahead of Georgia. Now I think a lot of people are considering this a Georgia-Miami battle, and Georgia's getting the last visit. So this is a big deal. He's out of Missouri. This kid is a giant. I think he's a real life-size giant. He's 6'8", 330. Just a big old dude, great athlete. He's a track and field star. He's still lean, but he's got plenty of muscle on him. He's how you draw it up, right? If you play the video game, you do the create a player, your left tackle looks just like this. He's big, he's physical, he's mean, just a pancake machine with outstanding length, moves incredibly well for someone his size. He is a big deal. And again, he's the #1 prospect in the country. I think I said 330 earlier. He's just over 300 pounds, so 6'8", 305. Still a big dude, and a guy that Georgia has wanted for a long time. And it looks like they might end up in that final two. I'm not saying Georgia's leading or anything, but they're going to get the final visit before the #1 player in the country makes his decision. So that was giant news that came out on Wednesday, so I wanted to jump on here and share my thoughts. But he's not the only offensive lineman that Georgia fans need to know about, because I guess earlier this week, Stacy Searels, Georgia's offensive line coach, went out to Hawaii, Honolulu, to check in with 4-star offensive tackle Malachi Lee, who was in Athens just a couple weeks ago for G-Day. He was there on an unofficial visit, and he posted on social media, thanks, to Stacy Searels for coming out and visiting with the family. So he's another guy who is very high on Georgia's board and was recently in Athens. He is 6'7", 310, so just another giant dude, right? He's a big old kid out of Hawaii. His final 6 includes Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, BYU, USC, and Texas. So I was surprised there's no Oregon involved there. Usually with, kids from, the islands out there, a lot of them look at USC, obviously, and a lot of them look at Oregon, but Oregon's not in the picture here, and Georgia is. He is high on Georgia's board. He took his official visit to Athens, like I said, during G-Day. He's got an official visit to Alabama lined up on May 30th, USC June 6th, Michigan on June 20th. He's the #8 offensive tackle prospect in the country, number 104 overall. And listen, Stacy Searels is not going to waste his time, right? He's going out to Hawaii for a reason, and it's because he thinks that, he's got a chance with this kid. They think they've got a real opportunity to land, this big, promising offensive tackle who from all indications, is an outstanding player who could see his ranking rise more and more in the 2026 class. So they were able to get an official visit from him. He got to see kind of what a semi-game day atmosphere is like in Athens between the hedges. I was told it went well. I was not able to get some quotes from that, but insiders, sources close to the program and close to this young man say, hey, it went really well. He got a really good look at the program, obviously. So Stacey Searles went back out to Hawaii to visit with his family, and he's not doing that for fun, okay? Georgia thinks they've got a real chance at him. So you've got two big-time offensive tackles. One, Jackson Cantwell, number one player in the country that I think Georgia's probably going to end up in the final two for. And then you've got this kid out of Hawaii that they're obviously high on as well, and they're still making a big-time effort. But again, he's not the only big-time offensive tackle looking hard at Georgia. I've talked about this next young man for a little bit now. Akin Abokco, his older brother, Nnamdi Abokco, is currently on Georgia's roster as a big-time nose guard. We'll see if he takes a big step forward in his second year this fall. Maybe brings a significant impact to Georgia's defensive line. I know the staff would love that. But Akin is a little leaner, still a big kid, 6'6", 285. Right, so he's not at that 300-pound mark, but is still a big kid with the frame to add more weight and more muscle. A lot of times, if Georgia brings in a kid that's 340, 350, the big goal immediately is to say, okay, let's lose some weight, let's get into shape, let's transform your body a little bit. But if they can bring in a kid 6'6", 285, there's plenty of room for him to get bigger and stronger. But he is one of the best offensive tackles in the country. He's number 6. So Jackson Cantwell's number 1. Malachi Lee, I hope I pronounced that right. He's probably not watching this. Actually, I'm sure he is. Who doesn't, right? He's the number 8 overall offensive tackle in the country. And then you got Abokco here out of South Garner High School in North Carolina. He's the number 6 offensive tackle in the country, number 67 overall. He was in Athens for G-Day a couple weekends as well. I think Georgia leads here. That's the point I'm trying to make. This is a big-time kid. They offered a long time ago. They've always been towards the top of his list. And like the other young man, he was in Athens for G-Day to check out that semi-game day atmosphere. He will be back in Athens for an official visit June 6th. The weekend before that, he'll be at Clemson, May 30th for his official visit there. And after that Georgia official visit, which again, on June 6th, he'll go to Alabama and then Notre Dame. So few schools still in the mix, but from everything I'm hearing, Georgia might be the team to beat here. For, again, a top 70 player in the country, top 10 offensive tackle. And this is all massive news because they signed like 5 or 6 offensive linemen. I think it ended up being 6 offensive linemen in that 25 class. I'd have to go back and look. It was 5 or 6. I think all of them were from the state of Georgia. But yeah, so if you're an elite tackle, you're looking at that and saying, okay, well, Georgia just signed a whole bunch of dogs, right? A bunch of guys. But these guys aren't afraid of competition. Jackson Cantwell is looking to go somewhere where he can play and start day one. Now, I'm not sure that'll happen if he goes to Georgia, but he's good enough to be a multi-year starter down the road. And these other 2 young men are as well. They are competitors. They are hungry. They are very, very good, very talented. And if they end up signing with Georgia, it's going to be because they don't care who's in front of them. They're ready to go to Athens to compete and to play for one of the best programs in the country. A couple other notes on some guys on the interior. Still working out the recruiting board there. There's not a lot of elite guard and center types across the country, especially in the state of Georgia. Georgia had several big-time offensive linemen in that 25 class. Not so many in 2026. Malcolm Gaston is a kid out of North Augusta who was supposed to make his commitment on May 2nd. He's down to Georgia, Florida, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina. He's pushed that back. I don't think he's said publicly that he's got a new commitment date, but he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. 6'5", 330 interior type. He is not ranked high. He's number 71 guard in the country, number 738 overall. So Georgia fans aren't going to like that. But he's got some big offers, and if Georgia pushes for a commitment, that's all you need to know. Desmond Green is another kid from South Carolina, 6'5", 350. So another just big, thick, heavy guy in the interior. He's going to have to lose some weight if he ends up at Georgia or South Carolina. I think it's going to come down to those 2 schools at a Timberland High School in South Carolina. He's got his Georgia official visit May 30th. Then he goes to Oklahoma, Florida, and then back to South Carolina, where he's been a ton. Again, not super highly ranked. He's the number 35 guard in the country, number 425 overall. So, Georgia fans aren't going to love that, where he's ranked. And these rankings are going to change. These guys can move up. Can't move down much further, but they can move up. But those are a couple out-of-state interior guys that Stacey Searles likes a lot more than the people making the rankings. Two in-state guys to keep an eye on. Jared Smith out of Woodland, a little lighter, 6'5", 270 pounds. He's got a Georgia offer from that Stockbridge area. And Chris Booker from Atlanta, Hapeville charter. He's committed to Alabama, but he recently earned a Georgia offer. Big-time kid. I love his film. He might be the best offensive lineman in the state for this class. And again, he's currently committed to Alabama. We'll see if Georgia pushes for a flip because he's really good. But the big news, Jackson Cantwell, number one player in the country, has postponed his commitment, and he's going to take a visit to Georgia on May 10th. I believe that's a Saturday. Could be wrong. I think it's a Saturday. And then he's committing 3 days later on May 13th. Georgia's got a chance to impress him, win him over, and land the number one player in the country in the next couple weeks. Big deal. And yeah, you can read more about him and a lot of other prospects over on Dawg Post. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. I'll see you over on the website.